Kinder Eggs taught me a whole lot about the real world. How they do that? Well, it was the 80's, and Kinder Egg toys at that time that were sold where I live had fantastic, complicated toys to build that came inside every little yellow yolk. They were really brilliant, and you don't get them anymore because now the toys that come in such things are pretty much one piece, maybe two, three pieces, and it's you just assemble it simply yourself. That was not the case. That was not the case at all when I was making them. I would get things like one that I particularly remember, and it's not so complicated, but a telescope, like all the component pieces of a telescope, which was about bigger than your finger when you assembled it, and it worked. All of the things that came from Kinder Eggs, they were good toys. I often wonder, who are the designers of these toys? That must have been fun, right? Or maybe it was a horrible job to work at, who knows? But the resulting Kinder Eggs and the toys that came inside them were an education. Assembly, following instructions, seeing, being surprised at how things are assembled. I had a whole big collection of them. I don't know how many I could have had, but let me try to work it out. Over probably about a course of 3 years, I most certainly got one every week. So that's what, 150 roughly. Yeah, I did have a huge collection of Kinder Egg toys. They were, what happened to them? Well, never mind that, but why don't we get these things anymore? I did find, and I bought them online from Germany, a box of just the Kinder Egg yolks with the toys inside. And these ones, yeah, these are more like they used to be back in the 80's. So I guess it depends on different countries, probably have different restrictions for safety and things like that. I believe the USA doesn't even allow the sale of Kinder Eggs. Is that right? And oh my goodness, how awful that is if that's the case. You should definitely buy the yolks. Go find them. Buy a box of them online like I did. I think I got 50 of them in a box for I don't know how much, but it was cheap, not so expensive. It was worth it. I still have a lot of them unopened. And one day, maybe they will be opened. But they won't be constructed today as they were by me back when I first had my hands on them. There was just such a learning from Kinder Eggs. I highly recommend it. Go and source some authentic, challenging toys to build. Build toys. Why don't you build toys? Build toys good for your brain, yeah? You imagine them, but building them is it just as good? Is it better? I don't know. They're so pretty as well. I mean, as decor to, like Granny leaves stuff up on the shelves. These things a lot of them were worthy of that kind of presentation. So what did happen to them? Well, we moved house a lot when I was growing up, and during the period of the Kinder Eggs, we pretty much lived in one house, except for weekends. We were always in someplace different at weekends. And it was when we left that house after living there for about 4 years that house move saw my Kinder Egg collection disappear. And I didn't think about it at the time. It's just we were moving house, and, kind of the last thing on my mind was my Kinder Egg collection. We're going to a new town. I've got lots of things to do. And so it was it was certainly 20 years later by the time I thought about where they might have gone to. And I acknowledged, and I do acknowledge that the likely fate of those toys was one of two things. I'm usually never wrong, so I'll get it down to two things happened. First one is that my mom would have given them away to someplace where toys might be useful. And I'm sure there were places that my mother would know to give such things to poor children and the like who don't have toys. But the second one is the one that I think really happened to the collection of toys. I think they all got swooshed into a plastic bag and thrown into the refuse bin and taken away by the refuse collector. I'm pretty sure I am. It's an awful thing, isn't it? It's a horrible thing. I had an unusual relationship. We were close with my mother, but yeah, that's not particularly surprising. So, but really, they were objects of beauty. And I've gone looking to see, can I find, even to look at somebody's collection of Kinder Egg toys from the 80s. But it's hard to find. It really is hard to find. Maybe everybody's mom threw their toys out when they hit a certain age, when they were turning a teenager. I'd have just been turning a teenager at the time. And maybe she determined that, out with that. She has it in her because when I was a small boy, my favorite toy, my favorite teddy bear was Curious George. He had a red hat and a red jumper, and he was about that big, and I love Curious George. And then Curious George disappeared. And again, I think my mother disappeared it. Or maybe got lost. But that too just evaporated from my life. So I do miss Curious George. I do miss that collection of magnificent, because they were magnificent, Kinder Egg toys. Surely somebody has written a book about their time working for Kinder, making the toys and designing them. Please tell me somebody has a book or a video even about that. Because it was a fascinating time, a really fascinating time in my life. The detail, the miniatureness of it all. Really, really, really good stuff, yeah. So go, try, see can you find some. Go and buy some yolks for authentic Kinder Eggs. You won't be disappointed. Well, you might. I don't know. I sure wasn't.